You know, I absolutely love how weird our world is, and I don't mean like in remote, far-off places, but like everyday little things all around us all the time. Like, did you know that we've been lied to about strawberries? Or the fact that you can pickle pretty much everything, like also including strawberries? They're really good, by the way. Or just how much rubber is around us all the time. And did I mention that the palm trees of LA, which are like such an iconic part of the landscape, might soon disappear entirely? Yeah. Hey, I'm Niba, and these are my notes on 5 times in nature that made me go, what the f***? So I had to discover what was going on and share it with you. For more cool stories of nature, you can check out my socials, and if you'd like to support even more, you can check out my Ko-Fi and help me make even more. And a special thanks to Jocelyn Liu for her research and production assistance on this video. Let's get into it. So LA's palm trees are everywhere and they're iconic, but they might be gone in like 20 years. And before we get into why, I first want to nerd out about what makes these trees so special, which is like their unique shape and their texture. You might recall that their bark looks like this, but actually it's not bark. That's because palm trees aren't actually trees. They're monocots and they don't produce true wood. Their bark is actually just like leaf scars. It's what's left behind after the leaf just dries up and in some cases falls off. These leaf scars can even tell us like how fast a palm grows, and they help distinguish between different species. When you picture a palm tree, you are probably thinking of one that's been trimmed without any of its dead leaves, because those untrimmed leaves can just randomly drop, which would be absolutely awful if you are walking underneath. So most cities hire gardeners to trim that dead stuff. Palm trees are also famous for their height because they only grow upward. Regular trees will grow rings and get thicker, but palm trees just want more light, so they just keep growing up. But anyway, let's get to why they're disappearing from LA. Back in the day, a land boom led to lots of palms being planted in SoCal to make it look special. A lot of them were planted for the 1932 Olympics, especially Mexican fan palms. But palm trees don't live forever. They're actually kind of short-lived compared to some trees. They only live for about 100 years, and so now they're reaching the end of their lifespan. Replacing them is super expensive, so chances are we're just gonna see a bunch of empty spaces where the palm trees used to be. I really hope that LA replaces the palm trees with plants that are a little bit more drought resistant, seeing as in they're a desert and all. Speaking of California's coast, have you ever seen those plants on the beach that have like those round bubbles and you just want to like pop them or step on them or just sink your teeth into them because the texture just looks so satisfying? But should we be stepping on these? Like, is it gonna do anything harmful? Or maybe it's like beneficial? Like, I kind of want to like sink my teeth into it or just squish it or step on it. So these plants are called bull kelp, and it's absolutely as impressive as it sounds. Their roots anchor them to rocks, and their stems can grow from 10 to 70 feet long. The bulb is called a pneumaticist, and it's filled with gases so the kelp can stay upright and afloat and be able to photosynthesize better. One study found that a typical bulb has a CO2 concentration higher than Mars's atmosphere. That's enough to kill a chicken or make a human pass out, so don't go opening it and sticking your nose in there. But like, you know, if you step on it by accident, like, it's not going to be enough air in the grand scheme of air to really matter. So bull kelp absorbs a lot of CO2, so much that it can grow up to 2 feet a day, and it makes these vast forests underwater that gives like shelter and food for marine life. Unfortunately, the numbers are declining because sea urchins have just been like destroying kelp forests and eating them a lot, because the sea urchin predator starfish has been struggling a lot with climate change. So there's a whole like balancing act going on here, and research is kind of underway to figure out how to restore the balance. But one thing I found really cool is that bull kelp is edible for humans. It's safe to eat every part, and you can even make pickles with it. The shape of these pickles totally scratches my brain in just the right way. Okay, yeah, wait. Kelp is really cool and all, but I thought of one more thing for trees, because speaking of trees, they are so incredibly weird and different. Like, there are some trees that only live for 50 years, but then the oldest known trees can live for over 5,000 years. My friend Pearse made a really cool video about all the different types of trees, which I would highly recommend, and you can watch it over at Nebula. What makes all of his videos so entertaining though is that he compares all these different creatures to like video game builds. So he'll be like, oh, like, you know, maxing out their skill points in defense if they're really strong against like forest fires or something like that. Pearse is a really funny and educational channel, and he and I both post our videos over on Nebula early and free. And yes, you can watch my videos earlier if you didn't know. Nebula's also got hundreds of other top educational creators, though I have to admit it feels really surreal to call myself one of them and get to share the same platform as people like him and Jordan Herron. And it's completely ad-free, so on my videos over there you wouldn't be hearing pitches like this. Plus there's Nebula Originals, where creators get to make awesome content funded by Nebula, and it's available exclusively on there too. And if you sign up using my link, you'll get a special price of 40% off a yearly membership, which will not only support me, but also support hundreds of other creators too, which is pretty amazing. So go check it out. And now back to the video, because we're going from trees to kelp and now to berries. let's talk about something sweet that you might totally misunderstand. Strawberries. Actually, all berries in general. Strawberries aren't berries. Raspberries aren't berries. Blackberries aren't berries. But you know what is a berry? A banana. So scientifically, a berry has 3 distinct layers, 2 or more seeds, and develops from 1 flower with 1 ovary. And strawberries don't meet this criteria, but bananas do. And cherries also have only 1 seed, so cherries are also not berries. But you know what does meet this criteria is kiwis. Kiwis have many seeds, they meet all the criteria, and so kiwis are berries. So are tomatoes and eggplants. Eggplants are berries. What? Horticulture is weird, and this is making me hungry. I might go have lunch. Next is something I'm sure that we've both seen, but we're going to talk about something subtle within. The story I want to tell you about is dandelions, and specifically the white milky stuff that's inside of them. It's latex. In this case, it's white, but latex also comes in different colors like orange and yellow. Many plants produce latex, like sweet potatoes and cassava and milkweed. For more info about sweet potatoes, you can check out this episode I made about it. Latex is super important for plant defense against insects and pathogens. It kind of acts like a platelet in the human blood system where like the latex help like seal wounds and like acts as a barrier. But the thing is, if you have a latex allergy, you got to be careful around these plants. So latex is a raw material that can be processed into rubber. And actually, I want to share a funny story about natural rubber. So we get most of our natural rubber from this thing called the Brazilian rubber tree, which was just like, after people found it, they were like, oh my God, this is the bee's knees. We got to like plant it all over the world and create it, like just farm it everywhere. So they went and did that. And now we have a bunch of like natural rubber coming from Southeast Asia. But in 2019, there was this huge scare because there was like a bunch of different fungal diseases attacking these rubber trees in Southeast Asia. And since then, we've been getting a little worried because we really rely on these trees for rubber. So there's a lot of like economic importance, but there's also a huge environmental impact. Like so many square miles of forest have just turned into like rubber tree farms. So farmers used fungicides to control the fungal diseases attacking rubber trees. And while this definitely helped reduce the spread of the diseases, it also increased the cost of production and raised environmental concerns due to like the heavy use of all these chemicals. So luckily science stepped in. So scientists began developing like new types of rubber trees that are resistant to these diseases and researching better farming practices, like planting trees farther apart to reduce the disease spread and just make the trees more healthy overall. Like really, it's just so dangerous to rely on this kind of monoculture crop where like one single disease can wipe out the entire population. But at least on the plus side, we get more research into different sources of natural rubber and improvements in synthetic rubber. Synthetic rubber is generally less environmentally friendly though, because it's made from petroleum and its production process can be polluting. But natural rubber, if produced sustainably, is more environmentally friendly because it comes from a renewable plant source and can have a lower environmental impact. Have you seen these stalks on the sidewalk? I've always thought they looked kind of spooky because they have very like creepy crawly vibes, but they're actually clusters of flowers called spikes. Those white parts are stamens, the male fertilizing organ. What's crazy about these plants is that every single plant can produce up to 14,000 seeds, and those seeds can stay in the soil for 50 to 60 years and they'll still sprout after that. Unfortunately, they're pretty invasive. They were originally from like Eurasia and probably introduced to North America by the Puritans who really liked their medicinal properties, but more on that later. But now the broadleaf plantain is everywhere around the world, especially in areas with this like compact and soggy soil, which basically means anywhere with lots of foot traffic. Yay, like lawns, pastures, like sidewalks, and you have to kind of like mulch and remove the whole root system, but these bigger weeds, they just need like herbicides, which, you know, are not super very ideal. But even though they're weeds, they do have medicinal properties, like they're antioxidants, anti-inflammatories, and they boost the immune system. And they've been used for medicine for centuries, like ancient Romans have used them, the Puritans have used them, traditional Persian medicine has used it. And also, if you want to get your forage game going, the young leaves can also be used as a like baby spinach substitute. So there you have it, a little ramble on 5 weird plants and nature things all explained. I hope this made you a little more curious about our strange world, but also made you less confused about those weird things. If there's a weird plant or a nature story that you want me to nerd out about, drop a comment below, and I'll see you on the next page.